Good morning, Facebook, Instagram. Another beautiful Monday morning here in Toronto, north of Toronto. We're still officially stage 1.5, I guess you'll call it. But hopefully good morning, Domenico. Good morning, Clarissa. Hopefully today we get some more news from Premier Ford about reopening. Hopefully the cases are down. It's been interesting, cases going up, but more and more data is coming out saying that the actual death rates and I guess contagiousness of it is not as what it was, and asymptomatic people don't spread it, and kids are very low risk. So it's just so much information. It's hard to make sense of, and I think people are still really scared. So I hope this will end soon. I know they talk about a vaccine and therapeutics. I'm not sure which way Canada is going to go. I think the US is going to have different options. I think once those are in place, things will fully open. I know President Trump is talking about, keeping things opening. Then you're hearing on the media about this potential second wave. So it's just like, when will this ever end? So today I'm going to talk a bit about, what waking up feels like, in a sense, based on a cannabis breathwork experience I had earlier this week. So I'll share that with you guys. That was quite interesting. And then someone sent me a bunch of questions that I guess I'll answer. They had some personal questions about just a bit about my journey, so I'll share some of those as well. And yeah, if you guys got any questions, I'd love to share those too. So I'm just going to share this one more time here. Here we go. Share it. Okay. So yeah, so just to recap, I'm going to talk about waking up, and then all these questions might align a bit to that. So on Tuesday of last week, I got invited to a small group gathering of less than 5 people, because those are the requirements. And the intention was to do a breathwork combined with cannabis type, I guess, ceremony or breath workshop. So, I've been hearing more about it. I've been doing some self-experimentation with it. So you would, I think indica is what they recommend, but it can be done with indica. They say CBD. They say it can be done with different types of cannabis. And it's interesting because when I was researching it myself, I read an article that talked about how when you take cannabis, I think it's specifically CBD, but I may be wrong. Could be THC as well. Your melatonin production increases like 3,000%. And melatonin, as a neurochemical, is very similar to DMT. It's a few chemicals away. And when you're breathing, you are expelling CO2. Our body's this crazy, very highly sophisticated laboratory, where different things come in, different chemical reactions are happening, whether it's with oxygen, whether it's with food, and different outputs come out. So in this one, you take cannabis, you have all these receptors that interact with these plants, which I think is fascinating, the endocannabinoid system, and you combine it with the breath work, which can be very intense. Both experience can be very intense on their own. And personally, I don't really smoke a lot of cannabis. Sometimes I'll go plant in my backyard, now that it's legal, and I'll smoke some of that, and last me forever. So here the intention was to get some higher strength indica, which is, I think, more supposedly, I think the sativa is more of a body buzz, and the indica is more of like makes you feel more stoned. So we smoked a lot of it. We blended 3 or 4 different strains together, smoked a lot of it, and then the intention is to lie down, and we're guided on this breathwork experience. And the first time I'd done this, I'd done it myself. So I'd taken the cannabis, smoked a lot of it, laid down, and started breathing myself, which I found is quite challenging, just to push yourself in the breathwork by yourself. If you ever tried it, it's good to have at least a recording. Sometimes I'll play a tape that's reminding me, keep breathing, keep going, and a few prompts. So this was really nice to have someone, because I remember thinking that when I did it myself, I wish I had someone to guide me through this. So it was a guy who does this in Colorado. I don't know if he wants me to mention his name or not, but I'll just leave it anonymous for now. But it's legal also in Colorado, and he brings people on these journeys. And so he was guiding us through a Zoom call. It was before us. And we start breathing, and the music was just really amazing. So it was really guided music, not much speaking, melodic, and we're going deeper and deeper into our breath. And it was almost like a free flowing breath where the music is like what you follow. So I knew what to do because I obviously teach breath work. And I just allowed myself within 45 minutes to just get really, really deep. And it was quite amazing. So in his book, he talks about the cannabis breathwork being similar to ayahuasca. I didn't find it similar to ayahuasca, but it was different than a really intense breathwork, and it was not, anywhere near just smoking cannabis. I've had some interesting experiences with high dose CBD or cannabis oil where it almost felt psychedelic. I don't know if anyone's ever experimented with that, and I think like Terrence McKenna talks about, he's the timeless sage linguist who talked a lot about psychedelic experiences. Actually got me into psychedelics initially. So if you don't know about him, check him out. And he says, marijuana is abused by most people. I'm paraphrasing here, where they're smoking it every single day. Really, what you should do is smoke it once in a while and smoke a big dose and see what comes up. Because the plants are teachers. Every plant is a teacher. Just like ayahuasca, people don't think that cannabis is a teacher, but cannabis is a very powerful teacher. And it's just how you bring your intention into it. So if you're just smoking mindlessly every day, you're not going to get as much out of it if you put some intention. Even if you smoke every day, put some intention every time, because the plant can teach you things. Some people think, oh, I get a bad trip or paranoia when I'm smoking cannabis. I think the plant's just trying to show you things that you're pushing back into your subconscious, things you need to address in your life. So anyways, so this is how I guess I did it, big dose. And so I remember him just saying one thing, and it was like, is this what waking up feels like? And I don't know if those are exact words, but it hit me. And in this breath work, as I'm breathing, I felt like my body was turning online. Like the vibration, like it felt like electrical conductivity was just like my entire body was just like buzzing. And so I just kept going with the breathing. And it was at one point, I felt like my whole entire head was like vibrating at a different sort of frequency. And it came back. It's like, is this what waking up feels like? And then I just flashed to the entire world and what's going on. And it seems like collectively, all of these things that we've been experiencing for thousands of years, which is in our DNA. It gets passed down. It gets passed down every generation. There's even science that shows that trauma is carried forward, up to 14 generations. And I think it was ringworms that they measured. But also the natives would say, the indigenous people would say, it goes back and forward 7 generations. So even if you haven't experienced things like war or racism or trauma, it can be embedded in your DNA, this trauma. And now basically what's happening is, the vibration of the world is shifting. We're moving into a new sort of frequency, and all of this has to come up because we have to get it out of our system. And there's a lot of virus theories. That's a whole different conversation that would make sense of why people get sick at the same time, why the flu season happens at certain times of year, because there's like this purification that comes in the springtime. And maybe the whole world is going through it now. So all these feelings are coming up. Even if we think that they are planned, if people have an agenda, what's causing that to come up at a certain time, whether people are working together, whether the media is doing it, they're playing a role from a higher perspective. Good and evil is playing this role. And I think that role is for us to evolve. On a micro level, we see it as these little things that happen every single day. It's like, oh my God, this person did that. Oh my God, it's crazy. This guy got beat up. And you feel this anger come up within you, or you feel this judgment come up within you. But I think this is a collective process that we're going through. So, when the cannabis spoke to me, I guess we'll call it that, is this what waking up feels like? It's like, check in with yourself. Are we evolving? Are you evolving? I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. And it's like, okay, if this is what evolution feels like, if this is what your personal evolution is, what the collective evolution, do you want to resist it, or do you want to try to tap into it? Do you want to flow with it? Do you want to open yourself up into it and allow things to unfold and grow? Again, I always go back to the caterpillar. It doesn't know that it's growing into a butterfly. It can be quite scary. It can feel like, all this consumption and if you think about how vulnerable a caterpillar is, it crawls slowly. Birds are just like, it looks like a juicy meal, but it's just going through, it's doing its thing. It can't stop being a caterpillar. So why do we stop being human beings? And I like the one to say that, if you're not living, you're dying. If you're in fear of death, are you living your life every day? So it's important that we sort of, be aware. I think the big thing is awareness right now, as we're going through this time, to sort of challenge yourself to react with compassion and love, even though it feels like we want to fight with vengeance and anger. Ask a lot of questions. Joe's asked, how big is a big dose? I don't know. For me, I smoked a whole joint, so I don't know, probably about a gram. That one, and that was a lot for me, but I guess enough to feel really, really high. And one more thing I'll add about that experience was, so a lot of times when I smoke really high dose of cannabis, I might feel paranoia or negative thoughts come up. And I remember as I was smoking, my intention was to learn from the cannabis plant, and I did learn a lot. I remember looking down, the sun was beaming down, and I see there's a shadow here and the sun here. And as I'm smoking it, it's like, listen, things may come up, but you can choose to direct your focus and attention into the light or into the dark. And whichever way you sort of put your attention, that's where things are going to move. And so when it started coming on, I started thinking dark thoughts. Okay, acknowledge them, acknowledge the fear as a teacher, the darkness as a teacher, thank it for the teachings, but then move your focus, your awareness onto the light. What is the solution? Where do we want to move towards? Where do I want to move towards as a person? What's the type of energy that I want to bring into my daily life? And what do I want to attract into my life? Abundance, love, community. And then the journey went there. There were some visions, not like ayahuasca, not like cannabis, but this interesting blend in between. So it's something I'm definitely going to experiment with a little bit more. I'll share you guys. I'm going to make a specific video on the YouTube channel, Elemental Awakening on YouTube. That's going to talk about that whole experience in more detail. But it was quite interesting. And I know things are still going crazy around the world right now. I think this is part of this process. A lot of truth is being revealed. There's a lot of Senate hearings going on about, what do you want to call it, the deep state, or just basically, I think it's corruption in general. And I think that this age of the internet, which we thought was going to be about spying on people, a lot of people are afraid of that. It sort of evolved into its own thing where everyone's got a camera, everyone's got a phone, everyone can film everything at the same time. So people are getting caught doing things, blaming other people. I think it's an amazing thing that's happening right now. And I hope that it will continue to evolve where it's more transparency and more truth rather than more sort of restriction and censorship. Things are getting censored. People are saying, hey, why is it being censored? And people are asking, why is it being censored? So it's really, really cool time. Okay, so that was the cannabis breathwork. That was about, is this what waking up feels like? Ask yourself, check in. Is this what waking up feels like? Are you confused? Are you scared? Are you unsure? Okay, like dive into that a little bit deeper. Don't suppress it. Sort of like open up into it. So someone sent me 8 questions on Instagram. I'll try to answer them in the next 3 minutes. I'm sure I can do a whole rant on this. But basically they asked me, how did everything start? What caused my awakening? So for me, and a post I posted in the Elemental Awakening Facebook group, which really resonated with me, was that sometimes your suffering is the start of your awakening. And for me, that was true. In my mid-20s, I had an experience where I convinced myself I was dying. I thought I was sick. I thought I had some sort of disease. And that sort of woke me up to sort of start living and break free from what I was doing, because I felt like if I am actually dying, what do I want? How do I want to live the rest of my life? Ends up, it was all in my head. I was like this hypochondriac at the time, which was a very interesting experience. But at the time, it was very scary. But looking back, I was grateful because that caused me to get into conspiracy theories and start questioning the whole medical establishment, and then finding my balance where I went so much on one side of conspiracies where I was also losing sleep, and then finding the middle ground, which where I'm at now, pushed me more into a spiritual path. They asked me how old I am. I am now 38. How do I feel so comfortable to share what you know and feel is truth for you without worrying about being judged? So this was a challenging one in the beginning for me because I was really afraid of being judged by people. When I would share something, I would think of all the potential people that would judge me. I didn't pinpoint specific people. I was just worried about overall being judged, saying things, having tattoos, being in business. And then I started realizing that if I'm pretending to be someone so someone else will like the pretend version of me, who are they really even liking? It's not me. So as I started feeling more comfortable just sharing my truth and things that, I tell people, the name of this sort of talk on Mondays is what do I even know anyways? Because I don't know anything, but I can share my own experience. So as I started sharing, I started attracting people who were into similar things. Business relationships changed. It was attracting new people into my life. And it started this process. There's always a little bit of fear of being judged even till today. But, I just trust that, I want to share my truth and speak my truth. And anyone who's going to judge me for being myself, then I shouldn't really be friends with them anyways or do business with them. Why do I think I'm here? Again, I have no idea, but I think we are souls here to learn, and we're put in this crazy scenario of Planet Earth 2020. And some days I think like if it's like some program or some game, they keep adding these things in to make it crazier and crazier and crazier until you finally say, okay, I get it. This is just a simulation. Like, like President Trump is going to be the president Donald Trump's going to be the president of the United States. And there's going to be coronavirus, racism is going to blow up and China war and all this kind of stuff. And, the whole point is to sort of maintain your sanity through all this craziness. And we're going to keep throwing fuel into the fire and see how you do. And then when you get out of it, you're going to wake up and you're gonna be like, holy shit, that was intense, but it was a pretty wild experience. And you're going to get maybe not judged, but evaluated your spiritual growth through this process. And I believe that I chose to come here at this time to learn myself, to grow, to help, assist. But I'm not sure. And that unsurety, that uncertainty is what keeps things sort of interesting. Because who is for certain about death? Like I was really afraid about dying and what that would be like until I did ayahuasca. There's less fear, but a ton more questions about what is reality. So I don't know what I'm doing here. What's your magic that you continue to share with the world? I guess it's authenticity, trying to be a truth, trying to speak my truth, which I know may not be the truth for everyone. Being open and leading with love. That's one of my mentors coined terms to use a lot. Sachin Patel, lead with love, and just surrender and be curious about what the world has in store. Where were you before you started this journey? I was working. I was trying to figure out how to be successful, which I equated with making money, which really got me lost. Although I was winning that game a little bit, so I wasn't rich, but I was making a little bit of money, and I just realized that the more money people had around me, the less happy they were, and didn't know what the heck they were doing with their life. Do I ever question the path I'm on? Yeah, I question it about once a week. Check in, make sure this is the right path or not the right path. Just check in with what's going on. So it's always questions. Listen, there's so many different religions out there, so many philosophies, so many different ways to do life. Every single person probably listening right now is on their own path. So it's good to question it. It's good to sort of see the other side, even with everything that's going on right now. Like I will tune into Fox News and I'll tune to CNN. I'll listen to Trump supporters. I'll listen to the Democrat supporters, Biden supporters. I want to see what everyone's saying so then I can find my own truth. I can see what stands out. It's like, hey, this is a lie. When you subscribe to just one thing, you can get falling into that sort of tunnel vision. So I question everything, including my own path, including my own sanity if I'm alive. How challenging was the startup of your business? It almost killed me. Thanks, Closer, for that question. I've started many businesses, and every single one I go through the same process of like, why did I do this? But the difference between the ones I'm doing now and the ones I did before was just about trying to make money. And now it's about, I'm doing this because I want to do this business for a specific reason. I put intention into it. And the intention revolves around sort of how I want to serve, the lifestyle I want to live. And whenever I lose track and worry about the money, it feels like things are going one way and it's okay, let me focus on the intention. It brings the business back. So I sort of changed my view on maximizing profitability, more around sustainability. And the profit, what I found is being in an environment you love every day, attracting amazing people into your life that are open-minded, not necessarily like-minded, but open-minded, and all these other sort of revenue streams, not even financial or profit streams or abundance streams sort of come out of that. And although my last business wasn't the most profitable, it took me 2 years to start, just turning a profit, and then COVID hit. And it was really frustrating, but I looked back at all the relationships I built, all the amazing opportunities that came out of it. I was like, wow, I made a lot of abundance out of this business. So every business has been challenging. Last question. It's a good one. Do you ever wish you didn't take the red pill? So the red pill is like the Matrix, take the red or the blue. And it's like, you want to wake up, you want to go back to sleep. I never regretted the red pill. Maybe in the early days when I was into conspiracy theories, I was just like, fuck, this is too much. I don't want to see this. I want to read about this because it's so confusing and challenging. But looking back, it's the only way, more awareness, more growth, and more learning. So yeah, let's see here. Some more questions. Dan, cannabis slows returning to the mind to observe that what comes up, sensing our key. So any plan minutes. Thanks, Dan. Did you write? Well, I wrote a few things down. Thanks, Michelle. Abundance dreams. Okay, all these awesome comments here. One more question from Clarissa. We create another business since this one has been different. I'm open to it. I don't try to be absolute and saying I'll never do this again or I'll never do that again. I'm going with the flow now. I'm trying not to add any more to my plate right now because it's full, and that's one of the things that I do is just trying to keep myself so busy. So I'm trying to dive into why I do that to myself all the time. So I'm not planning any new businesses right now. I'm just focusing on the ones that we currently have and see how this whole thing unfolds. So that's all I got for today, unless you guys have any other questions. Thanks for tuning in, guys. If you have any questions, send them through Instagram, send them through Facebook. Like I did today, someone asked me a bunch of interesting questions and I tried to answer them all. And I'd love to do this again next week. So see you every Monday at 9 a.m. if you guys want to check in. Love you guys. Have an amazing day. Set some intentions for the week. Focus on what you want to create and the energy you want to bring into this world. And love you guys. So peace out. Cheers. Thank you, Clarissa. Thank you guys for all tuning in.